Welcome to Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. This podcast is about the journey to a more sustainable future in order for us to be able to do our bit to achieve net zero. I'll be discussing a variety of topics with experts in their field in order to educate and increase our knowledge of clean energy, electric vehicles and the electric vehicle infrastructure. So whether you're an individual wanting to make a difference at home, a small business or a corporate, this podcast is just for you. On my episode today, I've got Graham Rowlands, and he's the MD and an owner of Devitech EV Charging Solutions based in Leeds. Graham, it's brilliant to have you on here. Thank you ever so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me. Much appreciated.
So my colleague Michelle has been following Devitech for some time, and she basically said to me, "You've got to have this guy on the podcast." So I kind of started watching you then, and I'm really impressed actually. So yeah, that's the reason why I wanted to bring you on. But let's kind of start off with just giving me a little bit of your background to what you did before starting Devitech and why you started it, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, not a problem. So I am an environmental consultant by trade. After leaving university, worked for a company called Aquacentry and Darcy. Devitech was born out of the requirement. One of the main things that we kind of monitored, or still monitor, at Darcy was oil and pollution prevention and drainage and separators. And obviously with the 2030, now 2035, oil will become something that moving forward we will be monitoring as much, and obviously it would move the market. Devitech was born and created from a business unit within Darcy. What we had is we had engineers all around the UK. We had electrical accreditation. We had the ability to install, service, deliver, maintain moving forward in terms of we had quite a range of existing clients, be it offices, sites, chemical sites, anything of production facility. So it seemed like a good mix at the time. And that was started in 2021 within Darcy. What we found is that it was not as much of a niche market as pollution prevention, being very smaller number of people within. What happened is it just took longer than we thought. And being honest, I think we probably got it wrong when we started. We underestimated it, and we imagined it being just chargers on walls and from site to site to site. When in reality, it is more from the project's point of view. It became more focused on the back office, the management, the data driven. But like anything really, I had to make mistakes to get to that point and realise that we were quoting for works. We were involved within project specifications, but we weren't able to probably be in the right ballpark figure price wise or give the correct solution. We were engineers who were putting chargers on walls. So fast forward a little bit, and I ended up completing a management buyout from Darcy and took the Devitech brand itself, because at the time it was a business unit, and then started to set it up again. So then I had to register, obviously go through the NAPIT accreditation, go through Safe Contractor, go through OZEV. So then just really seeing the long-term benefits of what Devitech could provide to the marketplace and seeing the opportunity moving forward. Still work with Darcy, still consult with Darcy, still work closely with them. After being there for 17 years and being the operations director over there, it was a tough decision, but it was the right decision to move forward in terms of to grow Devitech within the industry, really.
So go on. So what is an EV charging solutions company? How's it different to a CPO, a charge point operator?
So what we'll do is we'll go in and we will specify the correct solution for the site itself. What the site wants and what it needs are always two different things. We've been to sites where they'll say, again, talking through our industry, we've been to hotels where they said, right, we want DC chargers, or we need a bank of them. And then when you really explain what they need and what's going to be suitable for the site itself, it then becomes more apparent that from a solutions point of view, you're going in to look at a solution not only for now, but look at a solution for 5-10 years down the line. So when we go in, we will undertake the project end to end. So that will be dealing with the groundworks, the bay markings, the charger specification, the back office, the DNO if we need to bring a new supply in. And then, most importantly, once the project is handed over, we then become a maintenance partner. So our relationships with our clients really start once we've handed the project over, because then it's what we try to excel at within the industry, and where we try and stand out is the aftercare packages and support that we give our clients. Is that we've not just put the charges in and there you go. We then say, well, we're managing these charges now, so we do theoretically operate in a way as a mini CPO, and then we'll manage the monetization, we'll manage the reports, the analytics, and the data. But yeah, an end-to-end solutions provider is to go in with a blank page and say, this is going to be the best solution for your site for these reasons, and we undertake a one purchase order system. What we found is that our clients in general don't want to be managing the civils, want to managing the electrics, managing everything that goes with it. They want someone to come in and project manage it from end to end, and then undertake it in as stress-free as possible.
It sounds like the best option for all, really. I can imagine. I suppose my question now is, when you go into a project like that, you've kind of said this anyway, haven't you? But do you, when you go in and they think they need a bank of DC chargers, do you kind of go, right, okay, well, is it because that's what they think they need, because maybe somebody's told them that that's what they should have, and then all of a sudden they realise, actually we need some 7 kilowatts or something like that, going in? Is it that, or can it be all sorts? Have you got some places that know more than others? I'm assuming you do.
100%. It's education. Is that the problem? Is that someone will think they need this because they've been told X, Y, and Z off somebody saying, oh, we need rapid chargers because I go and charge with the motorway service station, or I charge at McDonald's when I'm going for a coffee because I will need to be charged there and then. But when you discuss and you educate, because a lot of these will be facilities managers, would be site managers, would be fleet managers, and they need the education. And I personally think we've lost work in the past because I know we've lost work because we've been in and we've said, you don't need this solution. What you need is, like you say, it's going to be a long charges. The destination charge is our speciality, where you need AC chargers, and that could just be for a 12-hour slow burn. And we could chase that up and say we went with another company because they recommended we'll put 2 DCs in, for example. We know that's not going to be the right solution. We'd rather not win a job that has been specified incorrectly, that isn't a solution for today, for a year, 3 years down the line, than put something in that the client doesn't need, because it just ends up being a waste of money, a waste of infrastructure, and it doesn't it gives us a bad name within the industry, not us, but just within EV itself. It's a tough industry at the minute. There can be some negative connotations towards the industry. So what we're trying to do is, it's a slow burn. So again, we've got sites where we install 2, we install 4, and then those same sites of, like the service, like the quality, like the whole project that we put forward, and they'll come back to us and they'll put another 2 in, put another 4 in, because what we're finding currently in a lot of the projects we're working on, and we've handed over recently, and we're going to start in a few weeks, is everybody is allowing for the infrastructure to be added now. So then the groundworks, the cable, the EV blocks that go in, everything is put in now, that when we go to add another 4 in, another 6 in, 6, 12, 18 months down the line, the infrastructure is in place. They've made the most of the applicable grants available. But I think you've got to be honest when you go into these sites with people and say, this is what you need for what you're going to be using it for. If it changes, so be it. But we're finding that you need to be open and honest with people of what they can have on site. Same with hotels. We've worked a lot with hotels, and Dan Booker is a genius of being able to go into some of these hotels that have used every bit of electricity that they can have available, and somehow load balance, load manage, and be able to put 2 or 4 in the correct way on site, and come up with solutions that other people have walked away from. I could give 3 examples of hotels that we turned up to do an obligation site survey for, and they said other people have walked away from this, so we're still waiting 2 months for a quotation. And when Dan sits down and starts to work out how to do it, you understand why, because it's not an easy solution, but at the same time, we won all of the jobs. They all took charge care on, and they have all they've all sang our praises via case studies on the website.
And that's really what you need, isn't it? It's actually that kind of word of mouth, and be able to put that stuff up there as well, you know. And actually, you've answered my question, because I was going to say, what types of organisation do you work with? So you said hotel. Is it mostly hotels then?
Yeah. Well, we had quite a push on hotels because we saw the market of destination charge 7s and 22s AC units, but also being able to assist on the management of the units that are on site. So what we found with hotels, the smaller independents, we targeted the Lake District, Northumberland, Wales. So really the tourist hotspots, and we put a big push into that at the campaign. Undertook a lot of surveys, because what they wanted is they saw the value of being able to being where they were, offer the guests EV charging. They understood why they needed it, but they wanted an arm around the shoulder, a helping hand of we wanted to be managed. So we saw the value of being able to go in, manage the installation, manage the aftercare, manage the monetisation, the payment side, everything. So it was literally, if there's a problem, we know of the problem before the site knows the problem, and we'll fix the problem remotely. But we have also seen quite an increase in the past 6 months on fleet management. A lot of our recent projects that we've put onto LinkedIn, and obviously via our social media accounts, have been fleet management, and that has been a mix of 7 and 22s on these sites, low balanced in terms of what's available on site. And we've seen that the office and workplace seems to have had a bit of a resurgence. I think it was a very competitive industry 12 months ago, hence why we moved probably into a little bit more into hotels. But now we've seen quite a resurgence, and I think people buy from case studies. People buy from what we put online. You know, we are very prominent on our social media channels. We try and be as at the forefront of what we do. We don't always take ourselves too seriously for what we do, but what we can do is we can give examples of where we've solved problems at different sites, and where we've solved issues that others have walked away from, and we're not afraid to admit when we've got it wrong as well. And I think, like I say, when we started this, we had to completely turn it on its head, because we thought it was just chargers on the wall and we're going to get load. But then ultimately, and again, it's not doing it a disservice, they are just a big plug. The data and the management remotely of these charging units, and looking at the data that comes out of it, the monetisation, the usage, that's where the long-term benefits of what we do in this industry is about.
Absolutely. I was gonna ask you, really. So, what was it that made you think, right, we've got to do this aftercare malarkey? Because not everybody goes for that, do they? Do you know what I mean? Some companies, do actually go, here's a charger, there you go, fill your boots, carry on. You know, we're off to do the next site. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that's everybody, but in some cases.
There's a couple of reasons. Firstly, with my background at Darcy, I managed a team of 25 engineers. We covered the UK, and we did PPM and reactive, and these were covering closure devices on drains, on chemical, on coma sites. So if someone rang up and said there's an issue, you were there yesterday. There's no 1, 2, 3 weeks. As we've seen within the network, there are charges that have been out of use for months, as you can see on various apps. So we looked at that and thought, well, I'm from an industry, as is Dan, from industry, he worked in the temporary electrical side of the electrical industry. So if there was a problem, you were there yesterday. So we're looking at this industry thinking, no one is offering a reactive and a remote service to enable these assets that you've spent tens of thousands. And quite frankly, if they don't work, you're not getting anywhere. You cannot. Yeah. That stops working, the vehicle won't work. No one was really pushing it. We also, so there was that, but then there was also, we needed to differentiate. We're in a very, very competitive market where a lot of electricians, a lot of companies have appeared really who are offering no-cost solutions, or others who are putting fully funded or long-term. So we had to stand out. So what we needed to do is look at something where, what can we do differently? What can we offer differently? And we work with good back office management companies within our portfolio that allows us to monitor, monetize and manage our clients' charge points.
Yeah. It sounds like the best way to go, actually, being able to, I know you said about being reactive. I think to me, it's not about you're not being reactive. You're being proactive. We talked about this, didn't we, before we started recording, and the fact that you are able to see when somebody's got a problem and you're ringing them up to say, I've seen this. Do you know that to me is you're being proactive.
I think that's how it should be, though. What we've won work because when we've been in a competitive situation, a tender situation, for example, it's because nobody else is talking about it for the project to be completed and then handed over. No one's really talking about it. And what we'll say is, and again, it's won us work, is we'll tell you you've got a problem. We'll fix the problem, tell you what the problem was and how we fixed it. But if we can't fix the problem remotely and there's an issue, we'll be on site within 72 hours. 72 working hours, we'll be on site and we'll be looking at it. And if I'm honest, it never really gets to 72 hours. If we've got a problem, we know those charges won't work, we'll be on site ASAP. And I think I see that as a standard level of service of what we should be doing and what the industry should be doing. And I don't see it as anything out of the ordinary. I see it as that should be the standard. That we do find when we hand some projects over that there'll be someone on site will say, no, we'll manage the back office. But we'll say, okay, you know where we are when you need us. 9 times out of 10, we'll speak to that client within 6 to 8 weeks and it'll be, yeah, can you add that package in? Can you just send us the report every month and give us the analytics and the data and everything, that it's used in such a way to allow the charge points to be managed correctly? Because at the end of the day, it's a very expensive asset and it's very important to a business, especially when we're dealing with fleet as we are, especially when we're dealing with hotels. Because again, a reason we went down the hotel route and the charge care is pretty vital is I'm the same, you'll be the same as well. When we're travelling with business, we'll always look for a hotel that's got an EV charger, purely through convenience. And then suddenly, and again, price goes a little bit out the window at that point, because you start to think, I've got this hotel which is X and this hotel's Y, this got a charger. You'd look on the apps and you'd see what kind of charger it is, you'd look at the reliability. So there was quite a bit of homework involved because it's the infrastructure and your planning point of view. But when we speak to hotels, we say, especially when it comes to fleet, when it comes to business customers, that extra £5-10 a room is neither here nor there for a reliable charger. And then again, it comes to being able to monetize it in such a way. We've had hotels that have had extremely high electricity bills, and they would just put in to cover costs. But again, another example, as I could talk all day. Another example is we had an upmarket hotel in North Wales. And they rang up and said they've had really bad internet, middle of nowhere, and they knew that problem. They rang me and said, can you start a free charge? So I said, yeah, no worries. So I went to our back office, started it, and because obviously you needed the platform to start the charge, and the internet was down. And they said that this client was a very good client of theirs, stays over regularly, and they weren't worried about losing the electric. They were being able to offer that service to someone who was in the middle of nowhere, and we could do it all remotely. They said it, and they were made up with that. It could be managed in such a way, and I think it's just that value added that it offers, not only for them to be able to offer a charge to a guest, but also the management of it, and knowing that if there's an issue, they can ring a 24/7 out of hours line, and the hotel doesn't get the issue that goes with it. It comes via ourselves.
Exactly. And I suppose, I mean, the biggest thing, so my very, very first experience when I got the EV last August was exactly what you've just said about a hotel. I chose a hotel that actually had chargers there, specifically because I knew that I was going to be staying over every week for about 4 months. So my idea was, right, okay, I'll stay at this hotel. It was quite quirky. It was a nice hotel, but it had 5 chargers, so 10 connectors. I got there and I knew that there were some issues with it. But I literally got there and it said there were 2. And they were so old, they were so decrepit. It was untrue, And actually, I plugged in. I had to use my own cable. Fine, not a problem. It's in the car anyway. Used my own cable. Used their app. Got the spinning wheel of doom 3 times and was charged £30 each time. Obviously, so it's pending on my card. Yeah. So it got to 90 quid, and I was like, I'm giving up now. I'm not doing this. Went into the hotel, they were like, it's not to do with us.
That's the thing, and the problem I'm finding is that there's no management of them, there's no responsibility. There's no, if it goes wrong, who do I ring? Because like you say, the hotel staff are, it's not our responsibility, or it's managed by others. But what I find, it's funny you should say that, what I find really strange is there's still hotels out there now that are just charging a flat fee of, say, £5 to use the charger for, and it's like, it's costing you, I know it's a loss leader, but it's going to cost you 3 or 4 times that. If someone rocks up with an 88 kilowatt battery, for example, and they're going to give it an overnight charge, it's going to cost you 40 quid or whatever it may be. It's just the management of it, and realising that having a charger there is one thing, but having it managed correctly and working and on the applicable apps to be shown. Because if that charger is working, it's not just hotel guests overnight, it's the people who are going to pop. I've done it, you would have done it, you pop in and you think, I'll give it a charge for an hour and I'll have some lunch or whatever it may be. And suddenly it has become quite a revenue generator. And repeat business. Like you said then, you're going to stay in one place for a certain period of time, month after month. As soon as that's happened, you thought, well, I can't stay here. So suddenly it becomes a necessity. And again, I say this, and I've said this quite a few times, that 10 years ago when we were searching for hotels, you'd have to search for Wi-Fi. You'd have to, you remember you have to put on the filter, has it got Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
You went to a hotel without Wi-Fi now, you'd think you'd be gone back in the dark.
Yeah, you would.
That's how the hotel industry should be for EV within the next 5 years. That if you go to a hotel without an EV charger, it's going to be like going to somewhere without Wi-Fi, thinking, what do you mean you've not got an EV charger?
Yeah.
That's where we've got to be at the forefront as Devitech, as someone who, who's willing to give case studies and examples of where we've helped others in other ways, but then at the same time be able to be, we can come and have a look at it and look at one hotel, then it's a long-term game that if you've got a group of hotels that they'll move you on to the next hotel, or a lot of our clients now have got a multi-site operators, but what they do like is being able to log into the back office system and see all their sites and all their charges. Don't get me wrong, not all of them do. Some just like to get the report every month of CO2 saved, etc., etc. But others, you'd be able to look at everything. So when the hotel side is I think it will become pivotal to have an EV charger, and people buy from people buy from examples, and it's not always the cheapest option that gets it. But what we're trying to say is, look at the long-term benefits, look at the aftercare, look at this service, look at the reports, look at the data. You want someone to ring you and tell you when there's a problem, not an angry client to come to reception to say, my charger's stuck or this happened or that. We know of it, so we will ring up and say, right, you've had an issue, can you just check this for us? If we need to come to site, we need to come to site, but not very often do we need to go to site, because with utilising the technology correctly, it can be done off-site.
Yeah, and actually, do you know what? Going back a second to what I was saying about this hotel specifically, I did actually put it on social media while I was there because I was so annoyed, and actually the charge point manufacturer contacted us. We found out that the company who was supposedly in inverted commas managing it, it sounds like it was a standard electrician that was involved in the install. Do you know what I mean? And then somebody had gone back and dug something up that stopped the majority of the chargers from working. And so I was going to ask you, can any electrician actually install a charge point?
No, they can, but in terms of to get any grants or applicable date kind of refund, they need to be OZEV registered. And when you need to get OZEV registered, you need to show you're accredited and part of a competent scheme such as NAPIT or NIC, EIC. So obviously you'd send in your qualifications, you'd send in your accreditations to the applicable scheme. So it can be installed by any any electrician, but we'd recommend in terms of that you have to been through the City and Guilds course on EV install as well. So I think this is where we noticed was that if there was an issue, obviously as part of the scheme, you need to be you've got a 3-year warranty on any charger that goes in. What we found, and I think it's pretty common when we speak to people, if there was an issue with the charger, it will be fed back to the manufacturer, or it's a manufacturing issue, not the installer. And then the manufacturer say, it's an installer issue, and then you're stuck in the middle. You've still not got a working charger, and ultimately, it comes down to it. You're then stuck with it's stuck in the middle. So you need what we've kind of said. You take the responsibility. If there's an issue, we come back, sort it, and everything that goes with it. But I think it was pretty common at one point that they were being put in, and if there was an issue, we just refer back to the manufacturers.
It seemed to be that. It just feels like there needs to be. If I know you said about people should go on this training. If it's not mandatory, it needs to be mandatory, doesn't it? It feels like there's got to be a level of accountability, across the sector. You're doing it right, but not everybody else is.
Well, I think it comes down to the City and Guilds course that people should have been on and be qualified to do it. I think we find on the smaller jobs that that's not always the case. It becomes an electrician's install rather than. Don't get me wrong. It all comes down to when you claiming the grants as well. So the grants, obviously, it needs to be by an OZEV registered installer. So we find when we're working with a lot of our clients in the workplace charging scheme, the infrastructure grant, that's where it kind of gets called in because they're on the website itself. So when you're searching for an installer, you can search for in a region by name, by postcode, etc., and it will show you that they are registered as a competent installer by OZEV.
And that's going to make that needs to. If people don't understand this, say for example, if small hotels, independents, or little places like that, if they don't, I suppose, like I say, until it's fully mandated, then there's always that risk, isn't there?
Definitely.
People to be kind of ripped off and be using. I'm not saying that it's like this across the UK, but I can imagine that there's little pockets of people that are kind of getting away with it that probably, shouldn't be doing that, and it needs to be mandated in the right way.
I think as it's going, as the smaller ones and twos are going in, these are the ones that ultimately we see as a really, really good marketplace moving forward in terms of not the cost of the charger going in, but then obviously the long-term benefit and management of the chargers. But I think it's just going to be something we've got to work through and just get the message out there to say, we can come, we can do an assessment. There's no obligation. We can come and have a look at site, give you the best recommendation of what we would put forward. We looked at one a few weeks ago. Looked at a site and they had a no cost unit put in a few years before the current owner took it on, and it was a bit of a nightmare because what's happened is they put a 50 kilowatt unit DC car park, and they had a 7.4 kilowatt unit next to it. The 7.4 never got used. The 50 kilowatt was continuously used by taxi drivers or local fleets just coming in, giving it a quick hour off, because within the town itself there's hardly any chargers. So it was on the apps as well, so that people are going in, and it got to the point they had to install APR, NR cameras to stop people coming in and staying for too long. And they just had people going to reception saying the charger's not working, that guy's been on all day, and this was a no cost charger put in that became an issue to the hotel, because ultimately when it came down to it, it wasn't being monetized, it wasn't being managed, it wasn't being maintained by them, and it became just a headache. So they asked us to go in and say, right, imagine that doesn't exist, what's the best solution? And I said, well, just two little 7.4s on the wall at this side, get them on a back office, have a nice little plate that says, in the event of an issue, please call this number. It's nothing to do with the hotel, these are not managed by the hotel. And then look at a charge care package moving forward of having the management of it, and then monetize it accordingly. And it's something we're talking back and forth, but it goes to show that someone's gone in with a solution before which has seemed pretty jazzy and putting DC units in, it's not suitable. So it is just going in and looking at what they need and what's the best solution at the time for them.
Yeah, and what you were saying about them saying, in the event of an issue, that's what you need, isn't it? Just something there that says, if you've got a problem with this, you don't actually need to talk to them in there, because actually, you can ring this number and we'll help you straight away. Because it's what we call a bit of it's not even visual management, it's just a bit of management, putting something in place that people can, but they can understand, well, okay, this is what I need to do, rather than going into reception, because obviously, and like I say, I did that. That's what I did with the hotel in Nuneaton. I went into the reception and kind of said this to them, and there was nothing on the chargers. It didn't say who to call or anything like that. So you're kind of mitigating that by putting anything on the charger to help people, aren't you?
That's it. And when people just need that helping hand every now and again, someone to be able to look at it. there will be issues that can't be solved remotely. And then ultimately, we manage that accordingly, because if there's connectivity issues, if there's signal issues, if anything that ilk, if it is on a Wi-Fi, or there's stuff above and beyond what we can do remotely, not many, but there is the odd thing. But sometimes it's speaking to a human being to be able to say, I'm looking at it, I'm looking at the charger, I've seen that it's been charging at this rate, X, Y, Z. And then also, we look at the heartbeats we get from the chargers, we have it on the wall in our office. So if there's a problem, we know there's a problem. And ultimately, you're not as much... You're going to wait for the phone call if needs be, but in 9 times out of 10 you'll be ringing them and saying, right, can you check charger 4 for me? And it's just, sometimes if it's going to happen, you want to speak to someone.
Yeah, it is, because a lot of the time as well, and we were both talking about this, weren't we? There was a post put on LinkedIn today about kind of charging, and whether, and the education piece about behind charging, and I said to the person who wrote the post that I could have probably put a lot more on there, but I ran out of characters, because some of it is the fact that there are, and I'm not, this is the charging infrastructure in the UK, or the public charging network, should I say, generally, obviously we're talking about this not to do with Devitech, but just other charge point operators. There are issues, aren't there? You and me have both rocked up at chargers, like I've just said. We've both rocked up at chargers, and actually they're not working. But taking it back a step, when you get that car, it's about getting that education before you get it, so that people know what to expect. There's lots of things that need to be done at the dealership level, at the lease companies level, to just, or wherever you're getting the car from, used car, ours was used, and at that level, just to be able to pass that information on, to say, these are the differences between an EV and your old petrol and diesel car. And also the charging network is different to rocking up at a petrol station. This is what you need to expect. But actually, these are the things that might or might not work, and this is what you need to do if they don't work.
Massively, and I think it is an education, because it's a completely different ball game. We've all been through, when we've been from a diesel or a petrol car into... I moved into hybrid in a previous life, then went hybrid into electric. And it's a completely different ball game, whereas now you need to plan more, you need to understand the importance of a home charger, a reliable, good home charger as well. I think what we found when we're speaking to people, especially when it comes to fleet, is your home charger is key. It's good having chargers at the office, it's good being able to charge out and about, but you need to leave every morning on a full charge, because then your day is planned around it. If you've not got a home charger, it's very, very difficult to afford and also plan, because it becomes, you're taking quite a risk. But I do think there needs to be more education on the planning, the infrastructure, and we've seen it with people that we work with in the industry as well, who've taken that first step, be it via lease, be it via hire vehicle. It's quite a big change, and I think it's something that, from a fleet management point of view as well, it's them understanding how fast they can charge when they come into the office, or how long, what the dwell time is, whatever it may be. And what we've had success, we've started to get a good feedback now, is when we're working with fleets, we've said, why don't you install a charger at home for said user, who's obviously in his fleet vehicle, put it on the same back office as you've got in the office itself, and suddenly it just becomes another user, that it's just another charge point, which is within your network and managed, but it really helps that person transition into an EV, and the company's still got management of it. But I do believe that there needs to be more of an education piece when it comes to these for people, 'cause it's a big change.
It is. It is. It's a change. And I said to you before we started recording, one guy that I spoke to, and I can't think who it was, and I wouldn't name him anyway, but he basically said he was offered, and I said this to you, didn't I? He was offered some support to understand what it'd be like to drive an EV, and because he said he thought it might have been a bit arrogant, but actually he didn't ask for that help. Do you know what I mean? And then was like, oh, this is a bit different, isn't it?
just blokes in general, to be honest. You know, oh no, we know best. Yeah. We'll figure it out. But then you very quickly figure out that if you don't plan correctly, you know, for what we'll say the availability of X chargers, and then you turn up and two are out of order. I actually pulled up one last week. I waited for it, and I waited, and I was already starting to get late for where I was supposed to go, and I eventually got onto this charger, and I couldn't get it working. So I rang up, had a chat with them. The Tesla driver came over to me and said, I've just got off that one, it's working. On the phone to the help company, and then a guy turns up in a transit van and says, are you on number one? I said, yeah. He went, yeah, I'm here to fix that, it's broken. I'd waited half an hour to get onto this charger.
No.
And then someone came off number 5 and someone else came straight into it. I'm just thinking, you know, it's sometimes just look at the draw, these things happen, and you know, it's fixed, and you can see the guy working on it and everything. I moved over to another slower on the other side of the services. But yeah, I think it is just sometimes it's look at the draw, isn't it? But at the same time, yeah, the management of it is key.
Absolutely. Do you know, and so I was thinking about this with regards to kind of, I was talking to you about our kind of experience before Christmas at this service station, where we kind of, everybody was stressed. It was 23rd of December. People were looking so fraught. We were on a charger that was like, it was a 22 kilowatt. It wasn't pulling that. And literally it was, what do we do now? I could see, like I say, there were other people wanting to get in other chargers. We didn't have a choice, you know, but to move on. But to me, and I know this sounds really simplified, there's got to be an electronic version of like a deli counter.
Yeah.
You know where you take a ticket, you kind of go, right, you're next. There's got to be an electronic version of it. Or, and I know that it's not in the benefit of the CPO, the charge point operator, to put a sign up, or you know, because to me there needs to be some kind of LED sign that says vehicle registration number this to that, you know, that space there, and also wait. You know, like when you go to Legoland or somewhere like that, and it tells you your average wait time for a ride.
100%.
There's got to be something. Your average wait time for a space is this. And alternatively, if you don't want to wait, the nearest place to this are these places. And I know they probably don't want to pass everybody on to alternative charging, you know, charge point operators. But there's got to be something like that for us to actually help it. You know, have a big display up there saying, you know, this is where you can go next, so that people don't jump the queue, so that people do know how long it's going to be.
Even if, like you say, it could be a small thing. It could be a screen that will show 6 charges and it shows the percentage of each one. So you can say that one's nearly done, or that one. And suddenly, for this industry to get a better reputation and get and you know, really allow the transgression across to EV, it is a small thing, but that'd make a big difference. Because if you're waiting, like that's a horrible, stressful day, 23rd, I can imagine getting to Christmas, and where it was as well in terms of where you were going to, it's like to that neck of the woods. It's a small thing that can make a big difference, because someone might pull in who's got 50%, who just wants a quick top up before they move on. They're going to look at average wait is 50 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it may be. Or there's 10 cars that are all on 20%. You're going to move on. And yeah, I understand, like you say, that charge point operators don't want to point people in the direction of other chargers. But for this industry to really move on, there needs to be a breaking down of barriers in such a way, because at the end of the day, the user experience is going to go one way. If it gets to the point of saying these are your nearest chargers within a 5-mile radius, and that can be a digital, it's going to be updated. It can be a screen off one of the apps available, which will show nearest ones, and it could just say, these are the nearest available. It's going to push people into other chargers, but ultimately, is it going to be better customer service? 100%.
Absolutely. It looks better for you to be able to do that, doesn't it?
And build the confidence, because you know for a fact, if you go to a charging point, it's got that information, you go somewhere else, you're going to remember that. So more times than not, you're going to say, oh, that was busy, but that's some information. You're going to remember it. So you're going to use that one again. So there needs to be a better way. I agree, like say with a deli counter, because everybody's having exactly the same problem, and as it gets busier and as more EVs come into play, whilst the network is growing, it's growing at a really good rate. You look at the numbers that I think I saw yesterday, 145% on Rapids up year on year. There's still as more and more people driving EVs, there needs to be better management. It's all well and good getting the chargers out there, but the management of them, like you say, in busy areas, it will put people off, and you can see bad news spreads quickly within this industry.
It does.
And that's the thing. And there's certain CPOs where I've had issues, and I've told someone, "Oh, I've never seen one of them working," or the RFID didn't work on that one. I've had that one recently with the RFID card that didn't work. And I'll tell one person, and they'll tell X amount of people. So it spreads quickly. So I completely agree. I think there's got to be a simplified way of managing usage, not only on a case of it's all good getting out there, but let's look at a way in which we can. There are times, because I've not got a Tesla, but you look at the Tesla network of what they've got, and you can see why they've got what they've got in the following.
Exactly.
It's just done.
Yeah, it's it's the handshake that you have, isn't it, with the car and the charger, and the fact that you don't have to faff around with it or anything like that. I totally get it. You know, if you're what they've done, because the supercharger network's been in for years now. Hasn't it? I remember going down to. I was working for SSE in Reading back in 2018, and I remember going down to their Havant offices.
Yeah.
And seeing a bank of superchargers nearby. I didn't have a clue what they were. Do you know what I mean? I was like, oh, it's that car again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where are they? You know, and they were, but they've been doing this for years. So they're obviously doing something right, you know. And I know that there's reasons why all EVs can't have the same handshake as the Tesla. And I know there's lots of stuff that we need to do to develop that. But that ideally would be brilliant. It's still not going to stop the whole queuing.
No.
You know, but like I say, I still think, because obviously the more people that move over to EV, the more queuing we're possibly going to see. So I think it's that queue management moving forwards. Definitely. Like I say, the deli counter idea, and you know, and actually, you know, kind of the waiting time, and kind of pushing somebody off to somewhere else if they have to.
More times than not as well. There could be a charger within 3, 4, 5 miles away.
Yeah.
Of where that big queue is, and it doesn't take many just to go to that one, and it really softens the queue, and you know the issues that are there. So it's a small change that could make a big difference.
Yeah, we should use that as a saying, shouldn't we? So I wanted to talk about I wanted to talk about something that you kind of mentioned to me before we started recording, which was the kind of the just one tree that you've started, kind of you're going to implement this year, was it?
Yeah. What we've looked to do is, we from a company point of view, we want to kind of put back into the environment. Obviously, with my background working at Darcy environmental side as well, it's something that I've close to my whole working career. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be planting for every unit we commission. Obviously, we work closely with Standardisation. We shout about that as much as we can, really, on LinkedIn and our social network channels. So we do a lot of commissioning for them, a lot of installations, handover. Obviously, we also do our own end-to-end projects throughout the UK. Is that for every unit we commission or install, we're going to be planting 3 trees. And what we're going to try and target is get 3,000 trees planted this year. That's where we are now. We're just speaking to just one tree. We've got the deed to sign, and I've got our marketing guru Becca, who's asking me several questions that I need to answer. But no, it's something that we've wanted to do, and it just fell in conversation over Christmas, really, Christmas and New Year. It was just the right conversation at the right time. I found them on LinkedIn, and I think it really suits our business ethos and what we want to do for the environment side and kind of give back. When we send out the reports every month to our clients, it says within the software, it'll say how many trees have been planted on the CO2 that was saved. So it's like, why not go one better? Why not sign it with someone who's doing the exact thing we want to do? I can't plant trees. I'm useless at gardening. You know, I can't mow the lawn in straight or anything. So I couldn't physically do it, and my wife would confirm that as well in terms of my gardening skills. But we found someone who we're really looking forward to working with. We're just crossing the T's and dotting the I's, but I think it suits our company and business ethos to work with someone as well in such a environmental kind of giving something back, really.
I like it. I think that's a really, really good thing to be doing. You know, to actually, to, like you say, giving back. I've actually, and I'm going to give her a shout out because by the time this goes out, her podcast will have been out. So there's a lady called Anne Snelson, and I did her. She runs a carbon literacy training, and I was on that a few weeks ago. And as part of it, you have to actually there's a pledge that's part of it.
Yep.
So there's a few things that I've pledged with regards to kind of, you've got to have a business pledge and you've got to have a personal pledge as well. So my personal pledge was to kind of stop. We stopped flying a couple of years ago, really, but to try and keep flying down to a minimum.
Yeah.
Look at locally sourced produce, so make sure that we're not kind of getting in from thousands of miles away. Even though it's really difficult sometimes, I find it. I quite like my blueberries from Peru, but got to stop. We've got to stop doing that. We've got to, but there's business stuff that I was looking at, so I'm going to put in we're putting in place an ESG policy. For full circle. And so things like that. So it is about, I want to do the same as you. I want to make sure that we're giving back in the same way that you want to, because I just think it's a good thing to do anyway, isn't it? Massively.
And I think the documentation that's come up from Just One Tree is pretty vast. It's really in depth. It's a pledge. It basically says by working with us, you are agreeing X, Y, and Z. And I think it's great. I think it's something that we looked at for quite a while, and just finding the right partner, really. I think we make no bones about it. We've got some really good partners we work with in terms of our projects. I'd love to say we've got everyone in house, but we don't. But we've got a really tight, accredited and kind of a really good partnership group who have been through, the accreditations. Basically, they're an approved contractor list. We've got a small but pretty robust one. And we'd be nowhere without our partners, because we've got a really good team we work with, and it allows us to be cost effective when we're delivering them. And it was good to get Just One Tree on board, purely because, again, it's answering a question I've wanted to kind of get involved with for a while. It's just been getting around to it, but no, I'm really looking forward to it.
Fantastic. So listen, just finishing up. You said Becca's your social media guru, isn't she?
Yeah, I make no bones about Becca. Tag her in as many things. She sorts all of our social media. She's a lot more on the ball than I. LinkedIn, I post quite a lot on LinkedIn, but she runs our Instagram account, our Facebook, our LinkedIn, Devitech account. She's really good at what she does, and she's really put us on the map when it comes to. We've gained a lot of followers. We've got a lot of traction. Like I say, we don't always take ourselves too seriously, some of the stuff she puts on, and when she has to put with me for a day on site and filming and talking continuously and not standing still. But it's good because I think it shows the human side of what we do, but also we get stuck in. We're not afraid to take on a challenge as to where we are. But no, Becca's really good. Becca's the one who's always continuously looking for new ways in which we can market, how we can utilise Instagram, for example, is something that I never really considered, and then Becca's grown it pretty quickly. She's
that's good.
-EV on Instagram. I'll get that one in as well.
That's good. That's good. And she's like, she would get on really well with I call her my second. Michelle is my second brain. So because I haven't got enough room in my first brain, I have to have her as my second brain. So I totally get you. So I think Becca and Michelle should have a chat, because that's how I got to know about you guys, because she's all over it. So it's like our presence on kind of social media is quite, we've got a lot of it on there, but that's thanks to Michelle as well. So thanks, Michelle. Just thought I'd say it. And thanks, Becca, for getting you. Anyway, yes. So
talk to each other.
Exactly, it should do. So just to finish off, your website. So for anybody's interested, it's devitech.co.uk.
Yep.
Where do you want people to find you? Do you want them to find you personally on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, we've got a pretty tight kind of bunch on LinkedIn in terms of, you've got Devitech on LinkedIn, which is EV Project and Solutions, and then there's myself, Graham Rowlands, and then obviously on that as well, you'll be able to go to the website, look at all the case studies that we've undertaken, look at the videos, look at the testimonials from clients across the hotel, fleet, office industries. So yeah, just really, there's a free site survey link on there as well. Get as much as I can, you see. If that's if that's of interest, no obligation. Get an electrical engineer out, look at what's available on site, but also what the best solution is for your site. We work with the grants, we help submit the grants, and then again, the whole kind of discussion around the podcast is once that unit's installed or project's completed, that's when our relationship moves forward. We take care of charges, manage, monetize the charges that way.
Fantastic. You're doing a brilliant job.
Oh, thank you.
Keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. It's good. That aftercare management, I think, is kind of the pièce de résistance. Do you know what I mean? Hello, I'm getting my French accent on now. But that's what a lot of other charge point operators and companies in the charging infrastructure need to kind of take a leaf out of your book and come and talk to you, to be honest. So anyway,
100%.
I'm going to finish at that point because I've bigged you up plenty here, haven't I?
Much appreciated as always.
Hey, no problem. Listen, so thank you, Graham. It's been a joy talking to you. It's been brilliant. And
thanks very much. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciated.
Hey, no worries. And I'm going to say thank you to everybody for watching and listening, and I shall see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks again.
Thanks for watching this episode of Electric Evolution. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons to stay connected with us. And if you're inspired by our journey towards a sustainable future and want to support our mission on a monthly basis, please check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Electric Evolution Podcast. Your support really helps us to bring the latest insights and discussions in the world of clean energy, electric vehicle charging and sustainability to you. If a regular subscription isn't what you're looking for, you can always consider buying us a coffee. Just head over to www.buymeacoffee.com/Electric Evolution Podcast. Every cup helps us to keep the electric evolution moving forwards. And if you're curious about our work in the EV infrastructure sector at Full Circle Continuous Improvement, why not visit us at www.fullcircleci.co.uk to find out more. And if you want to send me a message, you can always email me on liz@fullcircleci.co.uk. And finally, please don't forget to share this podcast if it sparked your interest. And let's keep spreading the word about all of these topics that we're covering. So, until next time, see you soon. Bye.